MicroGrids and the Smart Grid System, The Future of Puerto Rico by Brian Ayala Rivera and Arnaldo Otero. The purpose of this presentation is to inform a proposal of a new technology that can help the future of power generation to the community of Puerto Rico. The main idea is to view the background of the operation system that Puerto Rico uses and explain how microgrids and the smart grid technology can help the efficiency of power generation and distribution to all the communities, sectors, and neighborhoods that are in Puerto Rico. Challenges that face the energy sector in Puerto Rico. Since electric plants were established in Puerto Rico, the system of using fossil fuel have never changed. The mechanism for energy making has been the same till today. This system of energy distribution every day is getting more inefficient because of the high demand of energy needed in the 21st century. Not only does fossil fuel mechanism is getting inefficient, but it also produces greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to climate change and global warming. The energy distribution system in Puerto Rico is being known to have a slow response to failures in this operation mechanism, making this a really frustrating issue to the people of Puerto Rico. Higher demands that lead to increasing energy costs. The power plants that were created in Puerto Rico time ago, the energy that was distributed was to support only kitchen utensils, TVs, and radios. Now, the modern Puerto Rican uses a lot more electricity. Puerto Ricans depend on energy basically for almost everything nowadays. By this, it is very important to have a system that works the best always. The graph on the left showcases the price of crude oil over the years. We can clearly see that crude oil price is always getting higher. By this, the price of electricity gets more expensive, which means oil is not a good fuel alternative nowadays. The graph on the right, we can see and conclude that Puerto Rico is not making a good decision on choosing its energy source, since the main source of energy is oil and coal. A brief look into the transmission stations. The maps shows the main fossil fuel plants of Puerto Rico and the transmission cables that extend and cover up all the island. The plant called Aguirre, that it is the most big and important one, recently in September 2016 had a mechanism failure and left all of Puerto Rico without electricity for nearly 2 days, and some communities and sectors 3 to 4 days. This demonstrates the inefficiency of the infrastructure of the energy distribution system. Now, imagine a system that will help the company that distributes energy and at the same time helps the consumer. Imagine a system that will tell exactly how much electricity needs to be made and how much has to be distributed. Imagine a system that when a mechanism failure happens, the sector where the power went down immediately connects with another plant to bring back energy. Imagine a system that will beneficial to improve green energy. I think you all get the idea. We'll stop imagining because this can be accomplished with something called microgrids and the smart grid technology. My partner, Arnaldo Otero, will now explain to you what microgrids and the smart grid technology is.
Microgrids, a new way to empower Puerto Rico's energy consumers. So, microgrids, what is it really? Well, in a nutshell, we can think of it as just a small scale power grid that can operate independently or in conjunction within the area's main electrical grid. Using this technology, the population can be more aware of energy consumption, distribution, and can be more in control of its energy sector. The main function achieved through the use of microgrids is the two-way connection between the grid and the consumer, in which the grid delivers power and the consumer sends data or information on its energy demands. We can look at it as technical communication, where you need clear and precise information to achieve a common goal. Alongside this system, it brings a new door opening for the renewable energy sources like wind, solar, hydroelectric, and more. When it comes to smart grid, we can simply just visualize a network of generators, storage centers, sensors, processors that all come together to optimize energy usage and generation in order to meet public demands and reduce system overflows. Smart Grid is just the project whose main purpose is to implement microgrid technologies. You can just see the photos during presentation. The current system for power generation and distribution cannot keep up with the rise in population and with that, the energy demands. One of the systems implemented to modernize the energy sector includes sensors that can cut power usage when homes are not using this power or electricity. For example, during daytime, many people go to work or go to school or college. Another system that will revolutionize the way power is distributed is storage facilities. For example, during power outages, backup systems will kick in using the energy stored in these facilities. The combination of microgrids are what we know as the smart grid, which is just a new and better way to empower a population. Renewables. Puerto Rico has the potential to power itself just with solar alone. Energy from the sun hits the earth every day, just enough to power the earth for a whole year in just under an hour. Of course, that would require a handful of solar panels, and the downside to this technology is, of course, nighttime. But other energy sources like great tidal forces also generate power, which do not depend on night and day. This technology comes also with windmills and hydroelectric power plants. With the microgrids technology comes the potential to implement all these renewables, whom will reduce carbon emissions and in the long run can prove to be a great money saver since it does not depend on fossil fuels. Economic growth and modernization. If Puerto Rico wants to start acting like a first world country, the energy sector is a great way to start. It will provide new jobs to the future engineers, managers, environmental consultants, its scientists, and many more of whom Puerto Rico has to offer. When new technology and people capable of developing such technology and managing it, the future of the island looks very, very bright from this perspective. The Smart Grid project ensures a Puerto Rico that has a first world country outlook for a small island that packs a big innovative punch. And as a student from the UPR at Maya West from Electrical Engineering Department can tell you, we have the man and woman power to change the outlook of the energy sector. In this diagram, we can visualize better the project of the smart grid, from smart appliances, generators, storage facilities, processors, sensors, and demand management. Of course, these are explained in the diagram, but let's go a little bit into detail onto what they do. For example, the processor. It says it executes special protection schemes in microseconds. Well, we can think of it as like a CPU of a computer, always making decisions based on the data given. So, for example, if the power goes out in a central facility or just in a house, the processor will know exactly what to do, which buttons to turn on or off, which facilities will distribute the power next to. Later, we have generators, which I don't need to go into detail because everyone pretty much knows what a generator is. It generates electricity. And here, in the storage part, we can see a storage facility, a small storage facility where it says energy generated at off-peak times could be stored in batteries for later use. This was an example for when the power goes out. The storage facility has the potential to power back the system or its consumers, which are currently left without electricity and often need of this electricity. The sensors. These are very important because smart houses, as it said in the video, will contain smart meters, which are just sensors that detect fluctuations. For example, when the power goes out, a sensor immediately detects that, or when you're out of your house, so it can turn off the smart appliances, which is also later explained up here in the diagram that says can shut off in response to frequency fluctuation, or for example, when you don't have power. Demand management can be used to be shifted to off-peak times to save money. This is just another way of the processor and the CPU coming to, and the processor and the demand management just acting like a central computer where they're continuously executing tasks in order to save money or save the power utility so the power does not go down during a storm or a tornado or whatever it is the situation is at hand.
View the following video in order to clear any doubts or better understand the smart grid and microgrid technology.
Our current electric grid was conceived more than 100 years ago when electricity needs were simple. Power generation was localized and built around communities. Most homes had only small energy demands, such as a few light bulbs and a radio. The grid was designed for utilities to deliver electricity to consumers' homes and then bill them once a month. This limited one-way interaction makes it difficult for the grid to respond to the ever-changing and rising energy demands of the 21st century. The smart grid introduces a two-way dialogue where electricity and information can be exchanged between the utility and its customers. It's a developing network of communications, controls, computers, automation, and new technologies and tools working together to make the grid more efficient, more reliable, more secure, and greener. This smart grid enables newer technologies to be integrated, such as wind and solar energy production and plug-in electric vehicle charging. With our participation as informed consumers, the smart grid will replace the aging infrastructure of today's grid, and utilities can better communicate with us to help manage our electricity needs. The smart home communicates with the grid and enables consumers to manage their electricity usage. By measuring a home's electricity consumption more frequently through a smart meter, utilities can provide their customer with much better information to manage their electricity bills. Inside the smart home, a home area network, or HON, connects smart appliances, thermostats, and other electric devices to an energy management system. Smart appliances and devices will adjust their run schedule to reduce electricity demand on the grid at critical times and lower consumers' energy bills. These smart devices can be controlled and scheduled over the web or even a TV. Renewable resources, such as wind and solar, are a sustainable and growing source for electric power. However, renewable power sources are variable by nature and add complexity to normal grid operations. The smart grid provides the data and automation needed to enable solar panels and wind farms to put energy onto the grid and optimize its use. To keep up with constantly changing energy demands, utilities must turn power plants on and off depending on the amount of power needed at certain times of the day. The cost to deliver power depends on the time of day it is used. Electricity is more costly to deliver at peak times because additional, often less efficient power plants must be run to meet the higher demand. The smart grid will enable utilities to manage and moderate electricity usage with the cooperation of their customers, especially during peak demand times. As a result, utilities will be able to reduce their operating costs. By deferring electricity usage away from peak hours and having appliances and devices run at other times, electricity production is more evenly distributed throughout the day. The power being used right now was generated less than a second ago many miles away. At each instance, the amount of electricity generated must equal the consumption across the entire grid. Smart grid technologies provide detailed information that enables grid operators to see and manage electricity consumption in real time. This greater insight and control reduces outages and lowers the need for peak power. In control rooms across the grid, engineers will be able to more precisely and predictably manage electricity production, reducing the need to fire up costly secondary power plants. The distribution system routes power from the utility to residential and commercial customers through power lines, switches, and transformers. Utilities typically rely on complex power distribution schemes and manual switching to keep power flowing to their customers. Any break in this system caused by storms, bad weather, or sudden changes in electricity demand can lead to outages. The smart grid's distribution intelligence counters these energy fluctuations and outages by automatically identifying problems, then rerouting and restoring power delivery. Utilities can further use distribution intelligence to predict and manage electricity usage with the cooperation of their customers, leading to lower production cost. The charging of a plug-in electric vehicle can be managed over a home area network, or HON. The HON can balance the demand for electricity across the household and prioritize between the electric vehicle and other appliances to manage electricity usage and reduce costs. With smart grid technologies and consumer participation, utilities can more easily handle the increased demand for power to run the electric vehicles and ensure charging needs are met. By adding more plug-in electric vehicles to the grid, we have the potential to reduce fuel costs, lower our dependency on foreign oil, and help reduce greenhouse gas emissions.